Oh, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Hey everyone, welcome to Truth, Lies, Shenanigans, the live streaming podcast. No, there's nothing wrong with your video. It's just me here today. As you may know, the show is taking a short break as we prepare to bring you an incredible new third season starting September 12th. My name is Nio Nyx, and today I thought it'd be great if I shared with you some of my favorite segments from an amazing season 2. When we started this show a little over a year ago, I had no idea how much it would take off and how many of you guys would stick around with us. We've come a long way from a few friends just frustrated with the Trump era and coronavirus for our second season where we've had major guests like Howard University head coach Kenneth Blakeney, actor Javon Anderson from the movie No Sudden Move, or Don Cheadle, Olympic silver medalist Maritza McClendon, and my personal favorite, historic Little Rock 9 member, Carlotta Walls. They all blessed our little modest podcast with their stories. We've also heard the COVID Chronicle stories from frontline workers and survivors of COVID. We've had amazing collaborations with guest hosts, Movie Time with Micah from Black on Black Cinema, the Ladies of the Blur podcast, that's BLHER. And how can we ever forget our favorite mayor, Mayor Patrick? It's been an incredible season, and I can't wait to share some of my favorites with you. All right, let's start with a quick fire question from our Father's Day episode.
All right. This week, after the Senate unanimously approved it, Joe Biden signed the law making Juneteenth a federal holiday. Now, for those under a rock this weekend, June 19th, 1865 was the day that the last of the unfreed slaves in Texas were informed of their freedom. So, my question to you is, what now? Let's start out with Lizzie Ender's birthday girl. What now?
First and foremost, what now? We replace the word celebration to observation. We're observing Juneteenth. We're observing.
Okay, observing. Robbie Rock?
The national holiday recognizes an important event, but it doesn't correct current issues in the system.
All right, Gianni?
What's next? Reparations.
Oh, you want reparations. Yeah, similarly, I want refund the police reform, take the money from corrupt cops and put it to better social programs. So now a lot of Black people took to Twitter and TikTok pretty angry, actually, saying this is not enough, calling it performative activism. So are we happy with Juneteenth as a federal holiday or not? What do you guys say? Let's start out with Lizzie again.
Yes, we're happy. And who said that this is the end result? Who said that this is where we're going to stop? I think we got to get out of this mindset that we can't multitask, that we can't ask for one thing while still having our foot on the gas and demanding other things. And I think it's a fair thing. All of the people, including a beautiful older lady named Opal Wee, who's 94 years old, who is from Texas, who has been fighting for getting Juneteenth recognized nationally for decades. Like, we gotta acknowledge this. If we can celebrate July 4th, then we can fucking celebrate Juneteenth. Okay? Because it means we stop caring and we stop fighting for in all other areas of equality and social justice. Like, you guys would be surprised, honestly, you guys would be surprised at the number of students that I've had over the past 2 years at Howard University who never heard of Juneteenth, never heard of the Tulsa riot, who never even heard of Black Wall Street. Like, this is an opportunity for us to observe, educate, and learn.
Yeah.
So I applaud it. I applaud it. But that doesn't mean I'm still not going to put my fist up. That I'm
Right.
still not fighting for rights.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go, y'all. Let's go.
What are your thoughts, Gianni?
I think that I don't know why people are complaining. It kind of reminds me of the was it Sojourner Truth on the $20 bill? It wasn't. Who was it?
Harriet Tubman on 20.
That's for but it kind of reminds me when they were complaining about that. It's like I know it's not like a leap towards what we want, but it's somewhere. It's progression. So it's progress. So I'm okay with it. But I can see why people are mad. That's why I said what's next is reparations. So
All right.
I understand.
Robbie?
I love what Liz and Johnny are saying. It's people are going to feel how they're going to feel. There are some people who are more militant with their views who are going to feel angry regardless of the progress that's being made. But like Liz and Johnny were saying, if you're observing it, you're recognizing, and it's a day that people reflect and actually learn something about their history, then it's momentum in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with both of you, all of you guys, because we have to start. I mean, like Black History Month was a step in the right direction. Actually, Juneteenth itself was one of the first steps in the right direction. The Emancipation Proclamation. We're always moving towards something. We know we're not going to all of a sudden sign a law tomorrow that solves our problem. It's not. There's no law that we can pass that suddenly solves racism as an issue. It just doesn't work like that. So every step we're making towards making that solution is a fantastic step. So when I was watching some of these TikToks and Instagrams and all this stuff about, oh, it's not enough, we need this, we need reparations, we do need those things, but we still have to celebrate and be happy about this. I heard someone say something about one of the people said something about by approving this holiday, it just means that more white people are going to have the day off, or more wealthy people are going to have the day off, while while Black people have to go to work because they have to go to a restaurant. I'm like, really? That's not what this is about. It's not what it's about.
I mean, did we say that when so there's a difference again between a national holiday and a federal holiday. This is a federal holiday, so not everyone in the United States has this day off. But did we say the same thing when MLK, Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, was made a national holiday? Did we make these excuses? Did we say, okay, this was something to pacify us? No, we acknowledged it as a day of atonement, as a day of education, as a day of healing and learning. And this should be treated this exact same way. If we could have Columbus fucking Day on the calendar, never even set foot in the United States, never set foot in North America, in the Bahamas. If we could have that on the calendar, then we can celebrate Juneteenth, which is a holiday that has been celebrated in this country for years.
Yeah.
Depending on
it's been a holiday in DC for years.
It's just not nationally. So now we're getting some national recognition and hopefully getting the opportunity to educate people about American history.
All right.
And as your token Canadian, I appreciate learning about Juneteenth.
Did you say token Canadian?
Dude.
Love you, Rob.
But it was absolutely an education, because Juneteenth wasn't something I was familiar with until you brought it to my attention. So it is all about education and making sure that people understand the history and why it's important.
Absolutely.
Yep. Juneteenth is now a holiday. Well, like I said earlier, we've had a lot of amazing guests this season, but none more inspiring to me personally than Carlotta Walls, a member of the Little Rock Nine, group of 9 brave young children who helped spark the civil rights movement back in the 60s. And this was her story. Today's spotlight is on Carlotta Walls Lanier of the Little Rock Nine. There she is.
Yeah.
Welcome.
And Ms. Lanier, thank you so much for joining us.
Let me just give you all a brief bio and intro as to who our icon is today. So Carlotta Walls Lanier, at the time, Carlotta Walls, at age 14, was the youngest of the Little Rock Nine, which was a group of 9 African American students who integrated Little Rock Central High School in 1957. The integration of the Arkansas High School was a catalyzing event in the American Civil Rights Movement, testing the landmark decision by the U.S. Supreme Court declaring segregation in public schools unconstitutional, and that would be Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, 1954. So after eventually graduating from Central High in 1960, Carlotta Walls Lanier studied at Michigan State University for 2 years before moving to Colorado. There, she enrolled at the University of Northern Colorado and earned her bachelor's degree in 1968. She, along with the other members of the Little Rock Nine, is the recipient of the nation's highest civilian honor, the Congressional Gold Medal, which was awarded by President Bill Clinton in 1999. She's also received the prestigious Spingarn Medal from the NAACP and the Lincoln Leadership Prize, which was awarded by the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library Foundation. She is also a recipient of 4 honorary doctorate degrees and is an inductee into the Colorado Women's Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So everyone, let's please give a round of applause.
What a wonderful guest.
I'm also inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame, which I'm very proud of as well.
Wow.
It's right there in Seneca Falls, New York. So not that I did any of this at the age of 14 looking for those type of accolades, but anyway, they're welcomed now.
I bet.
Very good. And well earned. Well earned.
Yes.
Well earned.
Well,
yeah. Being the pioneer that you are, definitely well earned.
Yeah.
So let's go to your actual story. So before we even get to 1957, set the tone for us in Little Rock before that. Like, what was Little Rock like for you?
As Negroes or coloreds, as we were called during those days, we sat in the back of the bus. We had to sit in the balcony of the theater. You could purchase your ticket with whites, but then you had to go around the side of the theater and go up rickety steps to the balcony of the theater. You could not use the public library. You went to a library that was in a Quonset hut to check out books. You could not go to the city park, but only on a certain day of the week.
Just
as
the
if
city
the
park.
Animals knew the difference. So it was that was how my childhood happened to be, and I went to a segregated school. I love school. I learned a lot in school. I had great teachers, teachers that had master's degrees. I give a lot of credit to them for preparing us for the world, really. Not knowing whether integration was going to take place in Little Rock anytime soon, but they were preparing us to be able to go off to college and be a part of society, no matter where you might end up.
We do have a quick question from our audience. Who did you look up to as a child?
We had what we call Negro History Week. So I was always thinking about, yes, it was just a week. And we dressed up, to be that person or what have you. And actually, that's where I got that interest in wanting to be a doctor because of what I had learned about Charles Drew, and I was, and the only female. It was 2 females that struck me as far as history goes. One was Madame Curie. I mean, that was the only woman who stood out in the science field. Rosa Parks was one of my she rose for what she had done.
Because Rosa Parks was like 2 years before you, right? Rosa Parks was about 2 years before the Little Rock Nine?
Yeah, she was 2 years before, right.
Right, Lizzie?
What made the decision to attend Central? Like, how did that come about in your household, with your parents, with your peers?
Okay, well, that happened in 1954 as far as Brown versus Board of Education. And I knew what it meant. We discussed it in our classroom. It was a part of that weekly reader that we received. So we discussed it. It was discussed in my home. Everyone, my mother and father, were proud of the fact of this Supreme Court decision and what it could mean. We talked about it at the YWCA. We talked about it in my church. So it was a buzz throughout the city, right? So I thought, surely, that was in May of 1954. So, and I'm playing softball with kids out there in the field, right? And I thought, sure, come September, that we would all be going to the nearest school. And that didn't happen. The school board did say that they would abide by the Supreme Court decision, but they needed to put a plan in place. And unfortunately, that plan took from 1954 to 1957. So during that period of time, I went on to my Black junior high school, which was a junior high and high school, and did extremely well there. And it was in my 9th grade year that my homeroom teacher came in, and he had picked up the bulletin that had been Xeroxed off in the office and walked in and read the bulletin for the day. And halfway down, he said, any of you, and he gave, that live, and he gave street boundaries, and have any intentions of going to Central High School in the fall, please sign this sheet of paper. And he put it on the first desk. It went around the room. It got to me. I signed the sheet of paper.
Nice.
Didn't think, and he was not recruiting. I want you to understand that. He was reading a bulletin.
Okay.
So,
Right.
So this was a decision.
It was I knew that this was my time to, hey, I pass this school every day. Why shouldn't I go to school there? And I had a right to go there. See, and that was a part of my foundation of doing what was right, and that I learned at home. So I didn't even mention it to my parents when I got home.
Oh, really?
It was just they did. They, they didn't know until I received the registration card in July.
So what did they say when you?
Yeah, that's what they say. Yeah.
You plan to go to Central in the fall? Yes. And I could see some pride in my parents' eyes, really, that I had made this decision without their extra input. Their input from cradle on had been to be exposed to all the good things in life if possible, and be to get you wanted access to a better education, and you wanted all of the education you possibly could get. So that was just something that was just a part of our family. My father had been in World War II. He went to he had he was working during the day and going to junior college at night, and it got a little tough for him trying to handle the family and so forth. My mother was trying to complete her degree at Philander Smith College, and today she's still a semester away from that. So for me to want to know, to have the best available, to be able to choose wherever I wanted to go, I mean, that it made sense. I didn't see anything wrong with it.
I just want to real quickly, I want to read off some of the comments online. So Vaughn Perry quoted you, I had a right to go there. Olivia,
That's right.
Olivia E says, "Wow, such a courageous decision from a child." Daria Winter said, "Oh, I'll get back to Daria Winter." So, Vaughn Perry says, "Did you realize at the time how big a transformational moment this was going to be at the time?"
No, I did not. And no, I did not. And again, it goes back to knowing you're within the law, okay, and you know that you had a right to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So those things piled together. No, I didn't think this was going to be any big deal. I did feel that there were going to be people who didn't want this to happen, right? Because I was reading that in the paper and so forth. But I also felt that there was a community there that after a while would step back and and allow those things to take place. They would voice their opinion in a negative way, but in the long run, this being the capital of the state of Arkansas, um, it had a different vibe, if you understand what I'm saying. And see, there are pictures there. Yes, I saw those sort of things, but I thought it would all go away after a couple of weeks once they got to know us. So, um, I was not looking for anyone to love me.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to school to get a good education, and some thought that sitting next to a white person was going to just send a buzz through me. I don't get a buzz sitting next to a white person. All I wanted was the same thing they were getting.
So
Anyway.
let's go September 3rd. September 3rd, 1957. That was the day before the 9.
Right.
And we'll introduce the 9 in a moment. But the day before your first attempt to get into Central High School. Did you get any that night? Like, what was going on in the Walls household on September 3rd?
Well, it was excitement. I was going to my new high school. Okay, it was not so much the new white high school. It was my new high school, and during those days, high school was 10th, 11th, and 12th. So I was in the 10th grade, and I had this new dress. My mother was a great seamstress. And however, her uncle, who was my great uncle, had stopped by the house a week or so before and said he wanted me to have a store bought dress. Okay. So my mother and I,
It's not a dress.
right. So, uh, we went downtown and we picked up this dress. I picked out this dress, and that is the dress that I wore. That, in fact, 2 first days, to be honest with you, and that is the dress that you now see, that you now is there at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And I don't know why my mother was. So had such foresight to keep that dress. I found it, probably 30 years later in her cedar chest, and
Wow.
and I said, "Wow, you kept this?" And she said, "Yes, I did." So
Wow.
you can take it. So, and that's
History.
what happened.
That's what mamas
So,
do. Mamas no special events and special things. They keep that historical stuff. They know.
They do. That's
no,
true.
you're absolutely correct. So that's how that piece took place. But the night before, I was just excited about going to school the next day. My mother dropped me off at the drop-off point, and I walked that block. I saw the other kids at the other end of the block, and there were a number of ministers there. It was a mixed group of ministers, and um, it's funny. I expected more than the 9 that showed up that day. I will say that much, because 39 of us had sat before the superintendent of schools and heard the litany of things that we could and could not do. So once I got
there's
yeah.
that dress.
So 30 of them dropped out.
Wow, that's so crazy.
It wasn't initially supposed to be just the 9. There was like
oh no,
more than
it was 30. It was actually 147 kids lived in that the boundaries, the school boundaries, and 114 signed up, but 39 of us evidently was selected by some group. Okay, whether it was through the Little Rock School Board and possibly the NAACP. I call it the Jackie Robinson test. I think they probably looked at our grades and what we did in the community and whether we were, might not be, the greatest in everything, but we were the best available. That 39 were the best out of the 100.
That's what I was wondering. Okay.
17, whatever the criteria that they were using.
Okay. But you don't know the criteria.
No, I don't.
Okay.
This is just my thought.
On September 4th, from that number, 9 showed up?
No, actually 10 showed up.
Okay.
It was 10 of us there on the first day. Not all together, but it was 10 that showed up. And the 10th one never came back.
Okay.
Wow.
Well,
that's so interesting.
Let's just introduce the audience to the 9, like who the 9 are.
Sure.
So we have Ernest Green. And so we're talking about, who they were as teenagers in 1957. So Ernest Green, Elizabeth Eckford, Jefferson Thomas, Terrence Roberts, Minnie Jean Brown, Gloria Ray, Thelma Mothershed. Now help me with Melba's last name because I speak with a Spanish accent sometimes, so I want to say Patillo, but I gather it's probably not pronounced that way.
It's Patillo.
Patillo.
Patillo is how she pronounced it. Yes.
So Melba Patillo, and then obviously Carlotta Walls. So take us to first day, September 4th.
That September 4th, as I said, I was dropped off. My mother dropped me off. She didn't have any anxiety about it, and neither did I. I was excited. And this was not the day right there. But anyway, we got to the corner, and there was a prayer given by the ministers that was with us. And we then walked across the street. I saw the National Guard that was there, that the governor had said the night before on television that he was calling them out to protect the citizens of Little Rock. And
the citizens of Little Rock.
So that's the day right there. And I was surely considered myself a citizen. My father paid taxes just like everyone else. So that didn't bother me. Hearing that, I thought that the National Guard was there to, protect us if there was going to be any problems. And we get there, and this commanding officer came up and pretty much spoke to one of the white ministers and said, take these kids and take them back home. And Ernie made the comment, you're telling us we can't go to the school and we can't go up this sidewalk? And again, he spoke to the white person and said, they are not allowed to go into the school per the governor's orders. So we turned around and we were escorted back home by the ministers, actually.
So in that
that's what started the whole process.
And And in that moment, did you know, okay, this is about to be a thing. This is about to be a thing.
Yeah, I saw the mob across the street. I heard the name calling, but none of that bothered me. I knew that there were going to be people, that were going to act that way. But I also thought that
oh my God.
that was September 23rd. But anyway, I knew that this was going to happen. I mean, that the mob was going to, it started growing. The mob was not like that you just showed, okay? But there was a large group of people there, probably a good 100, okay? And but it grew from from that day forward, is what happened. And by September 23rd, it was over 1,000 people out there, uh, you know, uh, calling names, saying everything that they could think of. And parents wanted their kids to come out of the school, especially when they found out that we had gotten in on September 23rd. And it was only, by that time, only 17 policemen were surrounding the school because of the governor had pulled away the National Guard. He had pretty much lied to the President of the United States when he went to Newport News, Rhode Island, not Newport News, but Newport, Rhode Island, where the president was. So,
Are we talking about Governor? We're calling about Faubus?
I will not force my people to integrate against their will.
Yeah.
So,
let me just reiterate, like, these are teenagers. Carlotta, Mrs. Pierre was 14 at the time. We're talking about 14, 15, 16-year-olds. These are children who are meeting all pushback and vitriol for simply trying to go to school, have their first day of high school. So I think that's something that, the viewing audience needs to keep into perspective. You guys weren't here taking, a nationwide making a protest. At least not in your mind, it wasn't a protest. In your mind, it was, let me go to school. And so Nio is currently showing a video of Elizabeth Eckford, so you all were at the school trying to get in, but she got separated she didn't get with the main group on that first day. And so as she was trying to go to school, she was alone and was met by an angry white mob. And this is one of the most iconic pictures from that time of her walking in. Was she 15 at the time?
She was 15 at the time, right?
15 at the time, walking to school by herself.
She was a junior, yeah.
And the angry mob of adults are following her, yelling, screaming, throwing things. So my question, when you finally met up with Elizabeth, what did she say about that moment?
It was like a couple of days later before actually that I saw Elizabeth, and who was a very quiet person to start with, and inward, about her feelings and so forth. So she didn't really say a whole lot other than she was thankful for Grace. Boy, I can't think of her last name now. That helped her to get on the bus to go home because that crowd was standing around her. There were a number of reporters there, especially the one from the New York Times, who was really trying to help her. And because he had 3 daughters at home, he said, we got to meet him. Benjamin Fine was his day. So, it stayed with her for probably about 40 years. This whole process, all of us handled it differently. But for Elizabeth, she really did not get help until about 40 years later. And now today
she was struggling with it that long. Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
And you know, it was pretty devastating.
I can imagine.
You know, each person just, you know, it's 9 of us with 9 different stories, none greater or lesser than the other, and so and hers is special as well.
I've got some comments online real quick. So Jacqueline Robbins says that clip is devastating to watch. Daria Winter wants to know, how did it not bother you? Call it a mob. The mob we just saw at the Capitol was frightening to members of Congress who are not even little children facing a mob. And Fred Hargrove also asked, how did you stay strong? Wikipedia says you never cried or retaliated.
No. Well, we couldn't retaliate. That was one of that list of things that we heard from the superintendent of schools. And my retaliation was always different. It has never been physical. Okay, it was I refused to stoop to their level. Mm-hmm. That was another thing that I learned at home, and I decided that it was their problem and not mine. Okay, because I knew I was right, and I knew I had the law on my side. So knowing those sort of things, that you are doing the right thing, helped me to get through that, along with my faith, as far as that goes. I mean, I had support from my church there, family members supported me. People from all over the world sent letters to us. I have letters from people from everywhere, Africa, from Denmark, to, from Germany, wherever. So all of these things, that this was the beginning of news on television. Showing these sort of things on television, and during those days, you had 15 minutes of national news and 15 minutes of local news, and we were on the news every day. So today you get news 24/7, but during those days you only had 15 minutes of national news. So just imagine that being transported throughout the world.
That was an amazing, inspiring interview from Carlotta Walls. Just to be transported to the history of the civil rights movement, those moments when she decided at 14 years old to make history. If you'd like to see more of the interview, the full interview, just go to TLSShow.com or find our YouTube channel. You can search Carlotta Walls. All right, next up, we have one of my favorite host topics of the season. The show was the first show of Pride Month, and our favorite Mayor Patrick Williams, guest hosted with us for a second time. Now, a few days before the show, the slime ball, as I call him, the governor, Ron DeSantis in Florida, decided to ban transgender women from women's sports. Our panel had been at odds on this subject in the past, and since Mayor Patrick's an openly gay politician, I wanted to get his perspective. Here's how it went. All right, so Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida signed legislation on the first day of Pride Month, actually, that bans transgender athletes from girls' and women's sports. He said about doing it specifically on the first day of Pride Month, quote, "I think standing up against discrimination of our women athletes, I think that's the right thing to do this month, next month, or any month." He said further, "What we did with the girls' sports bill was we're standing up against discriminating against our women athletes, because the fact of the matter is, if you force them to participate against biological males, that's fundamentally unfair. That's not a level playing field." And we've talked about this before, and I think for the most part, our panel agreed it was not a level playing field to have transgender athletes participating in women's sports. But now that DeSantis put it into law and said what he said, what is everyone's thoughts today
on transgender girls and women competing in women's sports? Also, what are your thoughts on DeSantis doing this specifically on the first day of Pride Month? I'm going to start with
That's
Robbie.
bullshit. That's
Yeah,
bullshit.
that's
and I hate it. Actually,
that's a deliberate attack. Yeah, that's a deliberate attack, and that's just it demonstrates his character.
All right, I think we're all.
I'm refraining from throwing something at him right now on my computer screen. He's such a jackass.
Through the screen, Patrick. Snatch him through the screen.
Right. Well, let's stick with the other question. So, what do we think about transgender athletes in women's sports specifically? Robbie?
So I have to agree that biologically, a biological male will, like I even did a little bit of homework on it just to make sure that I wasn't speaking out of turn. But whenever you monetize anything, we're talking about high school and college athletes. We're talking about scholarships and potential salaries that are up for grabs at that level of competition. So it's a bit of a slippery slope. So I'm going to say this. I'm all for promoting trans athletes. I'm all for fair and equal competition. I'm also for protecting athletic scholarships for biological women. So I honestly believe that the creation of a trans athletic league will be the way to go in order to preserve everybody's right to compete fairly. And this is it's coming to the forefront more and more. And it's an issue that we are grappling with, that people don't know how to deal with. And I think that just give everybody an even platform to compete in.
I'm gonna go with Patrick next.
Okay, but we're talking about kids in the high school level. I mean, sure, there's a growing number of trans athletes in high school and college, yeah, but also in the high school. I mean, there's a growing number of trans athletes that are coming out, and that's great. Do you really think we're going to have a transgender athletic league? I just don't see it really necessarily being a feasible sort of thing. But even as they're growing, what I think, I mean, this whole thing about trans women having a competitive advantage, there's no real evidence of that. I mean, the people who have been making that argument for a long time now have never really been able to cite any sort of, like, it's all anecdotal, this sense that, like, because they this idea that they were born male or whatever, even though it's much more complicated than that, when you're talking about transgender people, that they somehow have a benefit over women, cisgender female athletes. It's based on anecdotal ideas, and I think a lot of it's based on the preconceptions and misconceptions that people have about transgender folks, and not based on science. So I think we need to take a step back from this and look at what is the way to make the playing field equal for everybody, including transgender athletes, and allow them the ability to play and compete in sports like any other teenager should be able to. I also will say that a lot of the leagues, the NCAA, a lot of local leagues have been allowing transgender people to compete on transgender women to play and girls to play in girls leagues for a long time, and only recently has this really become an issue. And a lot of it is because frankly, there are conservative politicians now that are trying to play the culture war game and make these things issues when they've been going on for a long time without anybody seriously making an issue out of it. So that's why I want to throw things at Governor DeSantis.
All right, Lizzie, let's go.
I want to throw things at Governor DeSantis, but I think for different reasons than Patrick. Getting to like actual competition portion of it, there's a reason why there's a division between male sports and female sports, male sports, men's sports, and women's sports. There's a reason why in most sports, two don't compete together against one another. There are biological reasons for that. But listening to what both Patrick said and what Rob said, I think one of the main things that's missing here, when you have someone like Governor DeSantis or other politicians who are involved in this, and they're coming from a political standpoint. They're coming from a fake me out religious standpoint. But the first thing Rob said was, I did my research. No one is talking about research here. No one is talking, and when I say research, I don't mean like, Rob, we're able to do quick research, on Google, but no one is doing like exhaustive studies on this and how to make this a better situation. And so, yeah, we talked about this a couple of times on the show. I have long since said that I don't know what my opinion is, one way or the other, because I am an advocate for LGBTQ community. I am an advocate for transgender athletes. However, I do understand the female athlete who is saying this shit isn't fair. So we have to get serious. You can't just make a law without understanding what the actual issue is.
That's what you're getting to my point.
We need to do research, and research doesn't happen overnight. This isn't going to be something that's going to be, figured out by the time the Olympics start next month.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to take a minute.
You're getting to
and I don't think any of these politicians are prepared to do that. And they are playing on people's religious fears, gender fears, all of that stuff. And that's what's complicating the issue.
Yeah.
That's what's complicating the issue.
Okay, so I did my research too, and I ran across this great article. It's called, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Hold on. Striking the balance between fairness and competition, the rights of can't talk for some reason. Striking the balance between fairness and competition and the rights of transgender athletes by Chris Supranak. All right, so considering that both are important, right? I think we all agree that both are important. He notes that the reason for women's sports was to create a level playing field for women to compete, because when they were competing against men, that they couldn't. So that's why women's sports was created. And he noted a proven fact that, and this is a quote from him, pound for pound, men are more athletic than women, which is why women's sports exist. And the whole point was, okay, I already said that. So now, for example, we wouldn't want to have children competing against adults. Why? Because there's this clear difference between skill levels. We wouldn't have children who are 2 playing, competing against children that are 15, because there's a clear difference between them. You could look at the weight classes in boxing, right? For example, there's different weight classes because you create a level playing field for each of the weight classes, because it's very hard for a small fighter to compete against a heavyweight. Or, we have the Paralympics, the Senior Olympics, the list goes on, right? Creating level playing fields for players to compete. So he says, and he actually pointed out that Serena Williams a while back had said, we can, me and Venus can take on any player in the top, not in the top 200 top players in the world. We can take any male on. And then she actually played them, and they got swamped by a number 203 ranked male player. And later she ended up saying that, in the women's circuit, those were all been winners, but he picked them up no problem. And that was like 1998 from what I'm seeing. Anyway, the whole point is he did. But
I was just going to say, that's a good point. I don't think that's a point you want to put here, because we can go back to Billie Jean King versus Bobby Riggs, in which he actually beat Bobby Riggs.
Yep.
So we can throw that by the wayside. But I think what Serena was saying is that the average, even if you're talking about tennis, and just the average serve of a male athlete is way more than what the average serve of a female. Like, there is a physical advantage.
All right, so
it's just there.
So this is the solution that he suggests, right? And let me try to. So he says, instead of excluding transgender women from competition, just like boxing, create another competition level instead of just men's and women's. And this is similar to what Rob was saying, but instead of making it transgender, make it an open division where men can compete in it, women can compete in it if they choose to, And of course, transgender can compete in it. And that way you have a relatively level playing field for transgender athletes. And in addition to that, and it occurred to me that it actually helps, because I was looking at this particular image where there were two transgender women competing against, this was Connecticut, I believe, against.
Is this high school?
I think this is high school, yep. And the two transgender men came in first and second, as expected. But what I realized looking at this is it forces the women to compete harder. Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So if you create something like an open division, it gives the women something like Serena and Venus. If there were an open division that they could compete in, that would be great for them to be able to compete in something like that and improve their own skills.
So then where is the incentive for the men to compete harder? Like, why is the onus?
Well, no, it's the opposite for men. They can compete down because maybe if you're not in the top 200, you want to compete on a level playing field.
But competing down is not the same as competing harder. You're taking yourself down.
But that's where the balance comes in, though.
There is no balance. If I have to work harder to compete against you, and you're just running in, okay, I didn't do anything over the weekend, I'm good. That's not fair at all. At all. Like, the woman shouldn't have to compete harder.
I'm not saying they should have to. That's what I'm saying. There should be an open division where they can choose to.
But the scenario that you're setting up is not to the advantage of the biological woman. If she has to go be above and
she doesn't have to. You keep saying have to. She doesn't have to. She would choose to.
She wants to win. Why wouldn't she if she wants to win?
She can choose to compete against women if she chooses to, or choose to compete in the open division. She has that choice. It's not a have to.
The language you said, it would give them the opportunity to compete harder. Compete harder for what? If they're still competing against a biological male, chances are they're not going to win.
They can win. You just gave a great example with Billie Jean King. And this girl did not lose by a lot. Hold on. The girl in this did not lose by a lot. She could have competed.
We are talking about two athletes that are going to be high school, that are going to be in college, that are going to be professionals. And the Billie Jean King thing, that was an exhibition. That wasn't a real competition.
Sure. And he wasn't a good player anyway, let's be honest.
I do think this raises some interesting questions about, like, because especially when you look at the high school level, like what is the point of competition, and you're really trying to get people to strive to be their best. There's the idea of just focusing, segregating people off from gender and then having them compete against each other. I mean, shouldn't they? Maybe I'm being a little bit Pollyannish with this, but shouldn't we be mostly just encouraging folks to strive what is to be their best at their own achievement level, regardless of what that is?
Sure.
So of course, Patrick, but the problem is, even at the high school level, then there are scouts, there are college scholars, there are college scouts and scholarships that are being bandied about. So as soon as you monetize it, it becomes problematic, because you have to find that balance, that equation, to create a fair and equal playing level so that everyone has equal opportunity to those opportunities. Because, I mean, whenever you monetize something, there's scruples come into play, and not everyone is ethical, and some people are happy to make bad decisions to make a quick buck.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems with that too.
Everyone's coming from a different point of reference. Like, you have even high school students, unfortunately, who know that they have to compete and compete well to get their family out of their situation. And so if you change the circumstances of the competition where they are at a disadvantage, they might not get that scholarship.
Yeah.
They might not be able to compete and play or get on the team at the college level and then advance to the Olympics.
They mentioned some suggestions about, like, doing a handicap as well. where you would take into account the difference in testosterone levels and things like that, and then you would give them like some handicap, some calculation that has been. This particular guy, Christopher, he didn't like the idea, but I didn't like the idea either. But I mean, that was something that someone had suggested, and he's like, that doesn't make
I
any
mean,
sense.
it's again like Patrick said, and both Patrick and Robbie said, like, these politicians are not even having the conversation that we're
That's my
having.
problem.
Right.
That's my problem. You don't just legislate something like this without coming up with a viable solution that works for both people, both sides of the situation. You don't just legislate something like that. You wouldn't do that, Patrick.
Right. Can I just do a little bit of a timeout and point out one thing that because I heard people make the comment, because this is going to bother me if I don't say it.
Okay.
I heard people make the comment about calling somebody a biological woman as opposed to a transgender woman. Transgender women are biological women too. The right term is transgender women and cisgender women. There's a lot that we don't understand about biology. And what the way that a person's mind works, the way that causes somebody to be a transgender woman, that person is just as much a biological woman as a person who's a cisgender woman. So I just wanted to do that little syntax correction.
No, and cis is a term that unfortunately gets dropped quite a bit. And so no, thank you for the refresher. Thank you.
Oh, Lizzie, I know you want to say something.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but I would respect the terminology. As a biological woman who, has a menstrual cycle, as a biological woman who, had a myomectomy, had to have fibroids removed, like, I don't necessarily agree with that. However, I would respect the terminology. If that's what I am supposed to say, because I don't want to be offensive to anyone, and I want to be respectful of how the next person feels. But in my head, there is a difference in biology, and that's not taking away from a transgender woman at all. But there are differences, and that's fine. To me, that's fine. But and I often wonder, because I've seen the word, I believe it's spelled, Patrick, is it CYS?
Cisgender, CIS gender.
So I remember the first time I saw that, I didn't even know how to pronounce it. I was like, oh goodness, I don't even know if I want to say it until someone tells me how I'm supposed to pronounce it. I have no problem saying that. Whether I agree with it, I might have to do my research.
This might end up being our longest show. We have to move on, unfortunately. We really do.
This is our longest show.
It's not.
Actually, no, I think we had a 2-hour show. We did have a full 2-hour show. We
are not done the game show yet. We're
going to get through the game.
Away.
Trust me, the game show will go very quickly.
Before you came on, Robbie, that was when we had Yeast and Jam. Woo!
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all right. So that is it for Hot Topics. I do want to get a couple of comments in because I saw some online. Liana Jones says, I think a league won't make sense because you also have transgender men born biologically female. That will be a disadvantage. That would be at a disadvantage against transgender women. It's so much to consider and to work out. Olivia says, create their own league, call it a day, make it simple. Derek Winter says, so too transgender. What?
I was just saying, I would agree with them and saying this is why we can't just throw out laws.
Right. Because that I have a huge problem with that. So 2 transgender men to compete against 2 transgender women, unclear explanation. Okay, so that's it. That's it for our Hot Topics. Thank you for participating, Mayor Patrick.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
Man, that was deep. That was
deep. That's what happens.
It's good.
You come back.
We did have a lot to talk about. It was a lot to talk about.
You're ready to dive back into the deep conversation after last week, huh?
I personally love Mayor Patrick's passion, the way he advocates for the issues that are important to him. He's up for re-election, so feel free to support him. Go to patrickforcollegepark.com. You can donate there if you'd like. All right, now we can never end a show without Shenanigans, the game show. This one was a lot of fun. We tried to play Name That Tune on a previous show. Facebook and YouTube tagged us with copyright issues. So we had to do it old school style. Fill in the blank. Here's how it went. Time for our game show. All right, we got a fun game show. I don't know about... You said what? So, okay, so the game show today is Finish the Lyrics, 80s version.
I'll take this one. I'll take this
No. Unfortunately,
that's a sample question.
Unfortunately, we can't play the music. We played this before, but Facebook and YouTube hit us up on copyright issues last time. So we're going to go old school.
Hater.
We're going to do fill in the blank style. I'll give you a clue.
You can sing it to us.
You don't want that. No.
Or Rob can sing.
Something you actually
want
it. Robbie can sing. Go ahead, Robbie.
I want Nio to sing.
No, you don't want that.
Time after time.
All right, I'll give you a clue with part of the lyric, and you'll have 15 seconds to give me an answer. You get a point for each correct answer, and the person with the most points wins. And Gianni, since you're the only person not alive in the 80s, I'm going to allow you to request one hint, which you can use at any time. Yep, I'm going to given the 90s, baby.
Born in the 90s, cheating already.
And she gets the first question. So
that's not the way it works on Jeopardy. This is bullshit.
All right. All right, so here's your question, Johnny. Time after blank, you can look and find...
Question.
No, I didn't. I said, time after blank, you can look and find Cyndi Lauper, but can you fill in the blank? Would it be dark, dinner, time, or later? Time after blank.
Time after time.
Yeah. Right? Okay, let's see if it's the right answer. Hold on.
All right. Now see, he's cheating already.
Let me see if it's the right answer.
What are you talking about?
If it's not, you got the wrong one.
Oh, I'm about the wrong thing. Hold on. Let me see if it's the right answer. There we go. That is correct, Gianni Storm. Good job. Good job, Gianni. All right.
Not clapping for that.
She's like, too easy. Yeah, that was too easy.
So this is for Robbie Rock. Robbie Rock, you could feel the heat in Whitney's I Want to Blank with Somebody. What did she want to do? Love?
Easy.
Chance? Sing? Or dance?
Ooh, she want to dance with somebody.
That is correct, Robbie. All right. All right. So, God, this is. All right. What is Rick Astley's never going to do? What is Rick Astley never going to do and never gonna blank you up? Would that be give, pick, look, or hit?
This is one of our songs.
I like this song.
Gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and hurt you.
Oh, see, then we got a singer. We got a singer. Look at you.
Yay!
I know Rick Astley.
We just got Rick rolled.
We got Rick rolled. All right, so everybody's got a point. All right. So, Gianni Storm.
Easy.
Pour Some Sugar on Blank was a huge hit for Def Leppard. Which word fills in the blank? Us, me, you, or that? Pour some sugar on.
Pour some sugar on me.
Me. Let's see, that is correct. All right. Good job.
The DC heads out here, a DC go-go band did a go-go version of that song back in 1991.
Oh my God, these are actually too easy. All right. What word is missing from Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Blank? Would that be brain, heart, moon, or sun?
The
This is for Robbie Rock. All right.
So I know we were talking about chipping. It's not a total eclipse of the brain. This is a total eclipse of the heart, my friend.
Heart. Let's see if you're right. That is correct. Yeah, that should be the rule. You sing it when you get it right. All right. I need to find a hard one for Lizzie. Hold on, let me see. Oh my God, these are so easy. Can you fill in the missing word from the Phil Collins hit "In the Blank Tonight"?
Oh, I don't know that.
Would that be pair, air, layer, or
yeah.
sky? This is for Lizzie.
So back in the day, my high school Palmore was driving a black Pathfinder, and he used to play this going down the road. In the air of the night.
The air of the night.
Oh, yeah.
Think
That
of The
is
Hangover
correct.
with Iron Mike when he's
All
like, I love this song.
All right, so one of you guys are going to have to get this wrong.
Robbie, you got to turn it up. You got to crank it up. You got to crank it up.
With that little drum solo.
All right. If you've seen Rocky 3, you know the eye of the blank is it. Is it an eye of newt, spider, liar, tiger, fighter?
Eye of the tiger.
Eye of the tiger. That is correct. Correct. All right. All right, let's go to Robbie Rock. Which of these words completes Tears for Fears? Everybody wants to blank the world.
So, fun fact, my hair was very close to that in the 80s, and everybody wants to rule the world, my friends.
Nice.
Oh, I had Flock of Seagulls hair, man. I had the bangs.
Really?
That is correct, Robbie.
That is
correct.
Rob.
All right. Lizzie, I'm going to need you to get this wrong. So I can pick a winner. All right. So what is REO Speedwagon going to do to keep on blank you? What is REO Speedwagon going to do to keep on blank you? Would be wanting, loving, dream of, talking to. Looks like Robbie has an answer in his head.
Oh, no.
Don't word it. Don't word it.
Loving.
Loving. Keep on loving. That is correct.
But who could love that hair? Look at that. That's epic.
All right, we're going to do one last round. I'm going to move down a little bit in the list, see if they get harder. Hold on. I can't do it. I can't go back. I can't go to the further down. All right. All right. All right, this is for Gianni. Gianni. Hey. All right.
Oh, that song. Okay.
She sang it for you. I heard Rockwell sounded a little paranoid when he sang, somebody's blank me. What was somebody doing to him? Was it watching, stalking, wanting, or mocking?
Somebody's watching me.
That is correct. Watching.
Nio, I have the extra credit for this song. So Gianni, who actually is singing the
All right, if she gets the extra credit, she wins. She wins if she gets the extra credit.
Who's singing the hook in Who's singing Somebody's Watching Me? Who's singing the part?
That's a great question. That's a great follow-up question.
Who's singing that?
I don't want to sound stupid. I'm gonna say
just for all the marbles.
Prince.
Ooh, that is incorrect. Incorrect.
MJ.
All right. All right. Let's see. We're gonna do one more. Let's see. We're gonna finish off Robbie and Lizzie. All right. During the 80s, did you get into the blank with Madonna? Would that be groove, move, party, or mood?
So I was in Canada and a little young. I did not have the opportunity to get into Madonna's groove.
Groove. Nice. Did you want to? I mean, that's the real question.
Get into the lube, Bob. Did you get into
the lube?
Not yet. Not yet.
All right. This is the absolute last one. I'll just pick a winner after this. All right. So, what did Pat Benatar? This is for Lizzie. What did Pat Benatar want to hit with in her song "Hit Me with Your"?
I love that.
Hot pot, carpenter pot, tater tot, or
I love tater tot.
Tater tot. Hit me with your best shot.
I love it.
That is correct. That is correct. Okay, so you all did very well. You got perfect all the way around. I am going to give this one to, I'm going to give it to Gianni. She almost got the extra credit. Prince was close. Prince was close. All right. Good job, guys.
I have to tell you, it's an absolute blast working with these guys every week. We always have a lot of fun, especially with our Shenanigans game show. And that brings me to our shout outs. So you guys would be surprised how much work is really involved to bring you our modest little podcast every week. But I have an amazing team working with me. Of course, you get to see Rob B, Lizzie, and Gianni every week. But we also have Olivia E. and Jose working hard to help to get the word out. And then we have our wonderful guests and our guest hosts. So my shout out this week goes to everyone that has made Truth Lies Shenanigans possible. For this past year, this show has been my podcast passion. And it's been a thrill to work with a group of people equally passionate about making this podcast the best it can be. So I want to thank all of you, everyone working on Truth Lies Shenanigans. All right, and then we have our final Pet Shenanigans shout out. And the winner of Pet Shenanigans goes to my little puppy, River. My wife Mel posted a picture of our baby River after a walk, and apparently you guys loved it. So she had the caption, "The only chair he's allowed to sit on." And he's sitting right outside of our house on the porch on the chair. So I love River so much. All right. And that is officially all the time we have for today's show. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us. Hope that you maybe learned something new, gained a new perspective, or even got things off your chest every single week. Again, we're taking a short break. Season 3 returns on Sunday, September 12th, 4 p.m. Keep tuning in, though. Next week, we have Gianni Storm and Olivia E. They will actually be live with you, totally unscripted, taking your questions and commenting on some of the more interesting TLS topics. And then the following week, Labor Day weekend, you'll see Rob B and Jose, the Rob B. Jose Show. Don't forget, every Wednesday, even during our break, Gianni Storm and Olivia E. are unscripted. If you don't miss a second of it, I need you to please like, follow, share, subscribe, and check out all of our clips at TLSShow.com. Again, thank you so much to Olivia, Robbie, Gianni, Jose, Lizzie, and most importantly, I want to thank you. We will see you guys
Shenanigans.